Hi everybody, I'm Shane, and today we're going to be demonstrating the capabilities of our heavy-duty utility mower. This is a mower that's kind of a hybrid between our heavy-duty mowers and our standard duty mowers. So it has a deck construction that's built heavier like our heavy mowers, and the drive components have a direct drive bearing carrier with an Eaton 4000 series motor, and we're using a 2-blade spindle design with a stump jumper on it. So it's going to have really good cutting characteristics in grass and brush, and still be able to handle the small trees and saplings like our standard duty mowers. But it'll have the heavier duty frame on it, so you can, if you get into some heavier trees or heavier conditions, you don't have to worry about stretching or twisting or bending anything. So basically this is new for 2019. We have an upgraded valve block with check valve and relief valve in it for braking. And today we're going to be running it on a Kubota 75. And we're going to do most of our cutting on standard flow here. That's 21 gallons a minute, or 20.9 I think, with a line pressure of 3,300 PSI. And we'll maybe do some videos later with it on high flow, which is about 30 gallons per minute. And we'll just try to see if there's any difference in the performance. But I expect really good cutting characteristics here even on standard flow. So we advertise that this will handle 18 to 30 gallons per minute. So on this skid steer we can run it either way on standard or high flow. So let's start with some grass and brush, and then we'll move on to some heavier stuff. Let's get to it. Okay, so we just got done mowing some more brush and grass on low flow. Here we're mowing with only about 21 gallons per minute on this Kubota. I noticed that there was a clump of small willow here, and that took quite a job to get through that. That was willow's kind of a tougher, wiry kind of a material to cut. I wanted to point out that this area that we're cutting here is probably an old CRP field. There's a lot of old gopher mounds, and I noticed the difference between the other mower that we ran last week that had the float and tilt system on it, where the deck is free to flex. Here we're running a standard type mower deck, which is rigid, and a rigid mower deck works fine for cutting even this type of material. But you can see what can happen is you can occasionally scalp the ground and mow off some dirt or grass. Not a big deal usually, but just something to be aware of. Running a mower with the float and tilt is a big advantage in the uneven terrain like this, because the mower is always staying down low and in contact with the grass, so you get probably a cleaner finish. It looks probably better at the end. Okay, so we just got done cutting down a clump of English buckthorn bush, and there was probably 10 different stems growing out of this, and I was doing this on low flow, and so the performance was lower than what I would like. But the reason for that is because English buckthorn is an extremely tough wood. It's not necessarily hard, but it's hard to break off. You can see even with this little twig how hard it is for me to break it off. So this is where a higher tip speed works better in this kind of tougher wood. Also, when you're cutting brush off and it's larger stuff, and I was trying to cut it off higher, what happens is you hit that piece of brush and it just bends instead of cutting it, so it's stealing all your energy, and it's more prone to stalling the mower. But so this is a really extreme case of something that you'd be cutting with this mower. You could tell once I got closer to the ground and the stems were held tighter because they're near the ground there, it cut it off a lot easier. Because again, it's not doing that bending motion. So this is really nasty stuff to mow. If you're going to do a lot of this, you should really have a high performance mower running on high flow. But even a low flow mower like this can take it down and make it manageable. Okay, so we just got done taking a couple swipes here and some popple saplings. Anything from 3/4 inch up to this is maybe 2 inch. And we did this on standard flow again. So we're mowing here with about 20 to 21 gallons per minute, 3,300 psi line pressure. I'm impressed with how quickly it mowed popple compared to that English buckthorn. It cuts way easier. Not only is it a softer wood, but it cuts cleaner when the blade hits. It has less tendency to bend over. So we cut down several trees here and kind of mulched them up into smaller pieces, and it didn't take any time at all. So I think we did both these swipes here in just a couple minutes. So yeah, I'm very happy with how it's working on standard flow. We're going to switch over to high flow now and hit a few more trees here. There's a couple here that look like they're up to 3 inch, and just to show you the difference in how it compares performance wise. So let's get back to it. Alright, so we just got done mowing down some larger popple trees here. This time I ran it on high flow, so we're talking about 30 gallons per minute. Get a lot higher tip speed there, so it cuts faster and cleaner. Just to give you an example of one of the trees we cut down here, this is about approximately a 4 inch popple tree. Up where I cut it here was 3 to 4 inches, and then the few other ones here I had down, you just go over the top of them and you back drag, and you can mulch them up into smaller bits. The more you go forward and backwards and back drag, the smaller you can get the chunks cut down. But a lot of people that are just knocking trees over or making a trail, it's not a big deal to leave some debris. So it's up to you how much you want to mulch the bits to get a finer cut. Usually once or twice over is all you need. So overall, I've been really happy with the performance of this mower on low flow and high flow. Okay, so we just took a few swipes through this heavy brush area. It's grass and brush. It's pretty thick. You can see the good job that it does on high flow here, running 31 gallons per minute. This is just one pass. It's really rough in here, so I got to slow down. The Kubota with wheels is really, it's more unstable than a track machine, so I got to slow down to kind of keep control. But it's doing a really good job on the first pass. You can see how well it's doing. What we're going to do now is mow a couple of these English buckthorn bushes. This is some of the toughest wood we have around here in Minnesota, and there's a big one here and a bigger one behind it. So we're going to knock these over and then mulch them up, and you can see the difference between mulching something tough and mulching something softer like a softwood or like a popple tree. So we're going to hit this one first, and then we'll go right into the second one. So let's get to it. Okay, so we just finished mowing another buckthorn clump. This time we did it on high flow. So with this skid steer, it's about 30 gallons per minute. And again, we're working with about 300 PSI line pressure. I could tell right away that it was mowing faster. I would say overall we mowed this whole clump here in maybe 2/3 of the time as we did on high flow or low flow. Got done cutting a few more swipes here on high flow. It definitely works better on high flow because that higher tip speed is cutting cleaner. Something I wanted to point out, when I came back here, I did not want to mow down this pine tree. And so this feature here, the cutout deck, is really nice because you can see this point from the cab. And so you can get that point really close to an object that you don't want to mow, but everything inside of it will be pulled in and be mowed. So this is a point that you look at a lot from the cab, so you want to make sure they have good visibility to that point of the mower, because that's where you're going to sneak past an object that maybe you don't want to mow or don't want to hit, like a rock or a post or something. So this feature here, the cutout, is really nice for getting into things that are a little bit thicker, a little bit taller, and being able to make blade contact easier. So something to look for in mowers.